Hey Buddha family, so today I'm going to go over some tips on how I grow my tomatoes. In this case, I'll be showing you cherry tomatoes, but the same applies for your bigger slicers. So first thing we got to do is let's pick all these ripe ones before we work on it. That's not a bad harvest. So in this case, I have mine in containers, but the same applies for whether it's in the ground or in the containers. But what I like to do is no matter what, it's a cherry tomato or a bigger slicer, I like to split mine to 2 liters. And I find that that gives you the most production and the healthiest plant overall. Sure, you can do it to 3, 4, 5 liters, but in containers, it gets to be a lot on the roots. And it also gets to be pretty dense foliage where disease can happen. These can stay nice and airy so the wind can blow, they dry out. It's very easy to monitor. So for me, it's 2 liters. Now, I don't use stakes because these are indeterminate ones, which is what most home growers use, which means they grow constantly. So indeterminate means there's no set height. They just keep growing tall, tall, tall until the frost comes and kills them. If you were to grow this in a greenhouse, if you were to look in Holland and the Netherlands, we're at the front of this stuff, they're 40, 50 feet tall. They just keep lowering them, which is what I'm going to show you how to do here. When it's pretty cool. It's how you can get the most out of your tomato. So I use a string, no stakes, and basically this is quite overgrown. So here you can see one of the tops and it's already curved over and grown another 2 feet because it's lost its support. But I wanted this to be dramatic for this video, so I let it go, and now I'll show you how to do it. Gold. And again, you can see I have it to 2 main liters. So let's go through and prune off any of the suckers that are always going to try to grow. Here we got one down at the bottom that you can kind of just rip out. It's like that. Heck, it even has some roots on it. So you could actually plant this as a whole new plant if you wanted to. I'm just going to go up. And some of these suckers, if you let them grow for a while, they get pretty thick. That one. Almost the whole plant even had some tomatoes on it. And basically, just to show you, if I can bring you in, I'll give you a little synopsis here, is that the tomato always has a main stem that's growing, and then you have your leaf. But where every main stem and leaf are, you have what I call the armpit, which is this area right here. In every armpit, you're always going to try and get a sucker. So that's where you want to look for these things. They don't typically just shoot out from the middle of a stem like other plants. It's always going to be right at the leaf joint or the armpit. And that's where your sucker will grow, and that's where you're going to want to look to snip these off. And it's a lot easier if you stay on top of it, and you do it when they're nice and small like this, because then you can just pick it out with your hand, rather than having these big old things. All right, now that we got the suckers taken care of, it's time to lower these, because if you can see, tops of these have already grown way past my support up here. So you have a few options. One is you can just do regular string. You just leave a lot extra, and that allows you to lower it, which I'll show you. The other thing is that they make these really cool, basically pre-spooled reels of twine. So here's a very basic one, and you can see it's a fixed piece of plastic, and right here is where you would hang it onto a wire so that it stays secure. And here we have the string that we can just unravel, and as we need it, to lower the tomato plant. And here we got a little bit fancier one. This is a spool that moves with a little locking mechanism. So when it's depressed, you can see that this won't move. But when I squeeze this, I can now take this string and undo the twine as much as I need to lower my plant. Then when I release this, it locks. Just like that. And you won't be able to pull this. So let me show you how these work. And what you're going to want to use with this string, twine, whatever method you use is these tomato clips. Because what they do is they'll cinch over and now I make a hole for the stem to go through, which is plenty wide enough so it won't ever restrict it. And then right here is going to be where that string goes in and secures right around. So if I can get some of that string right here, you can see that here's a little spot where the twine is going to sit right in there. Then I'm going to cinch it shut just like that. So that's what it should look like. And now you can see if I tug on this, it doesn't go anywhere. It doesn't slip with the weight of the tomato. It's really going to stay secure and hold that plant right where it should be on this twine. So with these two items, you're ready to go. So let's get to it. So since I'm using a pipe, I can't really hang these because the pipe's too fat. Normally it'd be a wire or something you would use in a raised garden bed or outside. So I basically just had to use my own little wire hoop here. Now this piece will slip right over the hoop and lock it in place. And just like I said, I'm going to take that tomato clip we talked about. I'm going to snap it over this string, and then I'm going to secure it right below a leaf. And you want to do it right below a good sized leaf, so that way this plant won't slip. If I was to put that clip in the middle of the stem, there's nothing to hold that clip there until it hits something that stops the plant from falling. So when you put it right below a giant leaf, that leaf is strong enough to hold onto that clip and stop the plant from falling down. So now that I got my clip on there, and I got my spool attached securely, it's time to lower the tomato plant so that it has more room to grow up. So I'm going to hold on to the plant and I'm going to depress this release lever, and you'll watch the whole plant just drop. And I like to drop it about 18 inches or so. And now this tomato has 18 more inches to grow up. And then I'll just keep repeating the process through the whole season. I'll keep coiling up the stem at the bottom, removing the leaves from the bottom so they're not sitting on the ground. And that's how we grow indeterminate tomatoes. It's so easy. Let's get to this one. So let's say you didn't have one of those fancy spools and all you got is some twine. That's not a big issue. All we're going to do is the same thing. We're going to take a section of our twine and we're going to put a tomato clip onto it. See if I can bring you in so it's a little bit easier. So here we have our twine. Here we have our tomato clip. It's very important that the clip sits in the twine at the exact spot, just like that. And now it's snug right in this little section where the twine's supposed to go that cinches it. And I'll go up to this tomato plant. Since it's tipped over, I'm actually going to put it right at the part where it bent. There's a good sized leaf. I'll be able to just snip it right around. So here we got my twine. It's attached to the plant. Now what I can do is I'm going to hold this plant and cut this original section of twine. And you'll watch the whole plant kind of drop down. And now I'm going to gently lower it and wrap some of this twine around the plant. As I'm doing this, I'll wrap the tomato plant around the zigzag formation, and then I'll use a clip every 2 feet with cherry tomatoes. With the bigger tomatoes, it's probably every 12 inches because they weigh a lot. So now that we got that done, I'm going to make it about the same height as this first plant. I'll just take this string and tie a new knot up top. And here you can see our new lowered plants. They got plenty of more room to grow up. Any of the leaves that are on the bottom, we're going to cut off. So you can see here that I've already trimmed a lot of the leaves off, and I'll just keep doing it. Even some old stems you don't really need. But a tomato plant that's indeterminate just does not need leaves along the entire stem, especially once it gets to be 8-10 feet tall. And all these lower leaves will kind of rot out anyway or get bad, and then they can get disease and things like that. So we like to keep it nice and clean so the airflow. So any leaves that are on the bottom or touching the ground, you're going to want to cut off. And now look how nice and clean this is. It still has 6, 7 feet of leaves, and it's just there at the bottom. But this is so easy. It allows you to keep growing more and more tomatoes off the same plant rather than topping them or having them get all bushy and too vegetative. So this keeps it simple. You can see all the tomatoes nice and easily. Very easy to check for pests and disease and things like that. So you can see the V where I split the 2 liters. Now they're growing up to the top. They got plenty more room to grow up to that top, and then I can lower them down, and I'll just keep doing that all season long. Plenty of flower clusters coming. Here you can see our tomato clips right below a leaf, so that if it tries to slip, this leaf and the stem will hold it in place. And we're gonna have 20, 25-foot long tomato plants by the end of this season. And we're up here in Massachusetts. So have fun growing your tomatoes. If you got any cool tricks, let me know.